O man Ghana yina okoano. Bofwe. Ya bet si penny pa bi okronya. O risk bebre. Boy this phone bia penny. Na ye be jeri no. Bofwe. Ye mon paye say. Ye president yan kidnap no. Anesa. Ye be chinesi ye be kidnap no. Ye tetano mon paye. Ye mon paye. I see that soon sorry for her. I see who is sorry for you the trust you. Not yet the double rep. Run your payment. Now I turn the corner energy. Now I bet you it's a stroke. Auntie. The front of the pier. And I did a go home. Obi be my baba with what tea on my penny penny. Also, every Freddy. I see a real couple porn and to back a CBC. Yamon Pie, guess you. But wait, you see a footballer. You will see a footballer. I want to with him. You will see Yamon Pie. I feel well. Wow, who got a before Puma? That one, yeah. You can't see what you for lion. Send a Puma off to her. I send us soon, sorry for her. I say, who's sorry for you, they trust you. Not yet the double rep. Run your payment. Now I turn the corner energy. See, I know to the corner energy. The one to do on the wrong final. I feel 2026. You will see a penny baby. Now, what you solid deep for penny. Our dimmu. Now, they see you. Now, you will soon the amano. Now, a very piano. Say, Nipa will be said, dear, I don't know to talk from say. But wait, and from a cassia be a boss. I sit and from a cassia, no, she be a boy. Yeah. Now, I couldn't soon so that different. I fear you will be a day in my trade, as I say. And check. You will see now, everything is sure. Yeah, everyone. Sad different. Jim and one day. Now, oh, yeah, Juma. Now, for fear and twatter. Now, of you. Yamon pie. Now, oh, my pie. I feel way and you know, and you. Yari ever bono. Now, I bet you it's a stroke. Auntie. If you're not gonna pee, and I did a go home. That was soon. I said, and that was soon. I want 20 offered in to Jack. Now, she am on pie ready for penny for. Or a penny, or a penny, or Johnny Quono, or Johnny Quonaby, or Johnny Prosco, Quonaby, or a penny. Oh, Jesus. Or a penny. Or a penny. Yanti as a papa. Of what? As a see. Yamon pie. A tuba to Tobasa Bassa. Gunshot, a tuba to Tobasa Bassa. A tuna ever to one. Timamufuano. And a bind back. You know, my money, Bible. A bind back to quack. Of what? Yamon pie. Of what? Yamon pie. And to what day? Timamufuano. And a bind back. Yes, ye. Of what? Yamon pie. Obi be my baba with what the Oman Penny Pen. On also every Freddy. But wait, you won't pay. Nippa ya send the baby secretary and a woo after 2026. Nippa be of way after 2026 and move free January, as I said, they are first of way. And they won't buy a thing. A bear second of way. A woo bassa woo. Aquensia, Nippa woo, Aquensia, as the best of way. Yet your mind can account. I said, don't mind the cadia. Yen Tia. And yeah, when you're sorry, but say, of way. You won't buy it. Or see, I really am couple porno and talk about the CBC. You won't buy. And yes, I wake up poor night. Because you ain't more intimate and to quite unity. Russia and China. Ebekasieli to quite and to go back casually before you won't pay. Bomb will ever to about to Russia, man. I am American and about a bomb. You can't talk after 2026.
So then, what's the basis for saying now? And when you take someone for prosecution, must the judgment be summary? Must the person be prosecuted, convicted, and imprisoned the same day you take him to court? Before you say that.
But how many oral cases are being looked at now?
There are so many of them. The buffer stock case is in court. The National Service case is in court. There's a case involving Wontumi that is in court. The SkyTrain case is in court. The National Signals Bureau case is in court, and there are quite a number of them are also in court. There are also many of them that have reached what they call docketing stage. So dockets are being prepared, and as and when sufficient evidence has been gathered, they will go to court. That is the process that you use to punish corruption. So when you say oral has failed, exactly what it says that should have been done that hasn't been done. Have people? I know that close to 100 people have been investigated. Some have been given bail. After that, you put together your evidence. Then you build a case through a docket. Then when you are convinced that you have sufficient evidence, you go to court. You charge the person and put the person before a court. Now, the reason why you take the person to court is that you, the one accusing the person of wrongdoing, does not become the judge over the case. So you take it to a neutral body to examine the evidence you say you have. Then the person who you have accused is also given an opportunity to state his or her case. If the judge finds that indeed sufficient explanation has been given for the accusations, he lets the person go. If on the other hand, it is shown that there's really no credible answer to the charges, the person then gets convicted and then serves whatever punishment the court deems necessary. This is the defined process. So when somebody says oral has failed, you have to let them explain what they mean by oral has failed. So when we catch somebody who is accused of corruption, what exactly must be done to the person that has not been done?
Maybe they expect the cases to move faster than they are.
Yes, but there's a need for thoroughness. So I suspect a minute that you stole this your shoe, and I've been bandying it about. Once I am in a position to take action, what I do is to question you. So where did you get this shoe from? You say, oh, it is from the process of your work. Then I say, no, I have evidence that you stole this shoe on this date. You say, no, that is not the issue, and I deny all charges. Okay, let's go to court. So I have evidence that you stole this shoe. I'll put it before a judge. You also say you have evidence that you didn't steal it. You put it before a judge. The judge has to go through the motions to hear both sides and then make a determination. That is what Ghanaian law says. Ghanaian law does not allow that the moment I accuse you of stealing this shoe, I tie you to a stake and shoot you. That is not allowed by our laws.
But do you agree that some of it has also come from your side of government when we hear comments about deals being cut behind the scenes.
Which deals have been cut?
Well, that is what we are told. Have there been instances where...
So name one instance where a deal has been cut.
Well, you'd have to tell us whether or not such...
no deal has been cut. Absolutely none. You understand me? If someone cautions that, hey, make sure you don't go and cut a deal, it's not the same as saying that a deal has been cut. The president, who has final authority, says that he is not going to countenance the cutting of any deal. And so far, everybody who has been accused, against whom sufficient evidence has been found, has been put before the court, or is in the process of being taken through that system. So the criticism is not founded, it's not grounded. You know, the MPP itself.
But the AG himself had also given that impression. Apart from what the General Secretary of the party has said, the AG himself had also given the impression that there were those who were agreeing to return some of the monies.
But, Kamini, that is also allowed by our laws. The law allows that if I accuse you of some wrongdoing, and you think that, well, looking at the turn of events, you may end up being convicted and going to jail, you want to avoid that, you can make a formal application through your lawyers to the court that, okay, I accept that I'm guilty. So I stole this amount of money. I accept that I'm guilty. But I know that if I'm convicted, I may go to prison for 10 years. So if you would agree, I will return whatever it is that you say I have stolen in exchange for a mitigated sentence. It's called plea bargaining. It's not only in Ghana that happens. So then the state has to determine whether, rather than putting you on trial for all that length of time, and also having a situation where you could well be acquitted and discharged, I should not take the money that you say, or I've accused you of stealing, so that the state gets its money back in exchange for a lighter sentence. It happens all over the world. There's nothing illegal or wrong about it.
I agree, but
so, but except that
people think that it incentivizes rather than
it doesn't. You see, when you go to court, especially in criminal cases, the bar is so high. They say you must prove beyond reasonable doubt, such that if you are able to show reasonable doubt, even if there is other circumstances that may point to guilt, the court will let you walk. So any prosecutor will assess his chances and say that this matter it does not look as straightforward as it appears, and that rather than taking the chance of having this person walk free, let me take what I have accused him of stealing. It comes to the state, so the state gets his money back. But for the state to do that, you must accept that you have done the wrong. So you are found guilty, except that if you were going to go in for 10 years, they may say you go in for 3 years. So it's a mitigated circumstance, a mitigated sentence. That's what it is. But I'm saying that it is lawful. It does not mean that is what this government will do. This government has not done that. Indeed, the Attorney General disclosed that somebody came to him, someone who has been accused of stealing about 30 million cedis or so, said that they could return 22 million. He said, no, I won't take it. Because the person didn't want to accept that they were wrong, just so that he gets his peace of mind. He says, I'll pay you 20. I think that turned it down flatly. So it's not like the Attorney General is going around taking plea bargains. So the critics who say these things must be fair to the facts and understand that the law is clear. And if you agree that one law should be applied, you can't say that another law should not be applied. So we are either a law-abiding country or we are not. So if an accused person makes a formal request, the request will be examined on the face of it. And where merit is found, it may be followed through. But as we speak, there is not one instance where anybody accused of corruption has done a plea bargain in exchange for being allowed to work. That hasn't happened.
Is this government disappointed in the handling of the case involving the former finance minister, Ken Ofori Atta?
There again, rule of law. It is regrettable that he was allowed to slip out of this country. By the time we were not in power, he slipped out on 4th January or so. We came to power on 7th January. Even though President Mama won the elections on 7th December, he didn't have any power until 7th January. So there was nothing that he or the NDC government could have done about it. Now, we came into government. Now, the special prosecutor, who is set up by law, says that Mr. Ofori Atta has done A, B, C, D, and for that reason, he needs him for questioning and then for other actions to be taken. But Mr. Ofori Atta is not in this jurisdiction. It is only the Attorney General who has the power to make a formal request for Mr. Ofori Atta to be brought down to face these charges that the special prosecutor has leveled against him. That has happened. The Attorney General again on Monday disclosed last week Friday, I beg your pardon, disclosed that indeed he has made that extradition request and that he expects that the process will be gone through by the American authorities and then Ofori Atta will come back. Beyond that, there's nothing untoward that has happened. Of course, we all wish that Mr. Ofori Atta was available, as others have been available, for him to be taken through due process. Because mind you, no matter what you suspect somebody to have done, the law says that they have to go through a certain process, and that is important, so that persons who have not done any wrong are not falsely punished, or are not wrongly, I beg your pardon, wrongly punished, which will be a travesty. It will be a terrible tragedy to put an innocent man in prison or impose any form of punishment on him when he has not done any wrong. So even if you think the person has done wrong, you must take him through the due process. As far as government is concerned, due process is being applied. Of course, there can be criticism of how slow it has been. There can be criticism of the special prosecutor's approach. Like all other public officials, they are subject to public scrutiny. So the public is allowed to express their views on their work. But as far as government is concerned, on the Ofori Atta matter, we have done what has to be done, which is to make a formal extradition request once the proper processes had been triggered by the special prosecutor.
Is this political persecution or a genuine fight against corruption?
Again, how can Ofori Atta shout political persecution? To begin with, the person doing the prosecution was an appointee of President Akufo-Addo. It was his cousin, President Akufo-Addo, who appointed the special prosecutor, not so. And the NDP was not known to appoint adversaries to key positions like that. So we also know about the special prosecutor's proximity to other relatives of Mr. Ofori Atta. So on what basis are they shouting persecution? Indeed, it is not this government that is trying or that is seeking to prosecute Mr. Ofori Atta. I'm aware that the Attorney General is looking into other matters relating to him, but we've not reached a point where you can say that you are going to prosecute him yet. But as we speak, the 78 charges that have been leveled against him have been brought against him by the special prosecutor, who is an independent entity created by Ken Ofori Atta's cousin, President Akufo-Addo. On what basis then?
I mean, I see what you're doing, yes, but so we cannot extricate the government of the day from the process.
How so can we not be extricated? You tell me. How so? The people claiming persecution. Indeed, when Ken Ofori Atta was in power as finance minister, were members of the NDC not put before court? And why is he special? What is special about him? Why? Since the Fourth Republic began, or even before then, have several former public officials not gone through the same process that he is going through? Why would he single himself out? What is he being persecuted for? Who is doing the prosecution?
Well, because he's a political opponent.
No, I'm saying that. So when Ken Ofori Atta's cousin, President Akufo-Addo, and Godfrey Dame put the likes of Atta Forson before courts, what were they doing? Was Atta Forson not the leading personality in Parliament for the NDC at the time? So what were they doing? Were they persecuting him or were they prosecuting him? If they can prosecute an opponent and there's no persecution, why should they be treated differently? We cannot paint different folks with different strokes. You understand me? And I don't think that it is proper that we entertain this sort of thing. It is a baseless accusation that has no merit, and same has to be dismissed.
Does this government see an extradition happening next year?
Well, at this moment, it's entirely in the hands of the U.S. authorities. I have seen people attempt to raise persecution. I don't think the American authorities simply renege on their responsibilities merely because we shout persecution. I mean, they know for a fact that Ghana is an open democratic society. They know that we have a time-tested judicial legal system. And they have representatives in this country. So merely shouting persecution does not absorb one from being held to account. We believe that the right things have been done on the part of government. And therefore, nothing stops the American authorities from extraditing Mr. Ofori Atta. But of course, we agree that being a law-abiding society themselves, they will also go through certain processes to ensure that all the boxes are ticked. And once that happens, I'm sure that Mr. Ofori Atta will be well on his way to Ghana to answer the charges that have been brought against him by the special prosecutor.
3 petitions against the special prosecutor, Kisia Jabing. 7 of those against the chairpersons of the Electoral Commission. Where is this government with that?
Well, as I indicated in a statement a couple of weeks ago, all 10 petitions have been forwarded to the Chief Justice. That is what Article 146 says, and the OSP's own act says should be done. That is where government's role ends in this particular matter. So the ball is now in the court of the Chief Justice to take the necessary steps going forward. Yeah.
It is easy to conclude that the current government maybe using the same playbook of the previous government in kicking out Madame Charlotte Osei? Is that what you're doing? Absolutely not.
Of course, Madame J. Mensah and the deputies have come under criticism from various quarters. In fact, lately they've even been criticized by the MPP. You see, all public office holders are subject to scrutiny. My performance as Minister for Government Communication is subject to public scrutiny. People can have their opinions about my performance. That is entirely separate from being held to account for alleged wrongdoing. That is why the Constitution makes it possible for persons who think they have a basis to demand the removal of these entities to go through a certain process. That process is put in place to ensure that the claims against the persons are looked into through a fair process. And then if it is determined that there is merit in it, it is upheld. If not, it is thrown away. Like happened in the case of Justice Yoni Kolendi a couple of weeks ago. Somebody brought a petition. The process was triggered. The Chief Justice looked into it. Then no cause was found to carry it forward any further. And it was dismissed. You see, so this government does not have a difficulty. Madame J. Mensah was in office when we won, secured arguably the largest margin of victory ever under the Fourth Republic. So really, what really is there to antagonize her over? Nothing. Of course, it doesn't mean that persons within the NDC or without it do not have the right to criticize if they think that's
Is the NDC going after Jean Mensah?
As far as I know, the NDC has not brought a petition against Jean Mensah. The people who have petitioned are identifiable people. When the time comes, I'm sure she will know who her accusers are and she will have opportunity to confront them. But the NDC has not presented any petition against Madame Jean Mensah or the Special Prosecutor or anybody else for their removal, despite the fact that we had serious misgivings about some of the things that were happening under her watch, under this. And we were entitled as a group to voice those concerns because we were a stakeholder in the elections. And if we find that there are processes that are being undertaken that unfairly disadvantage us or undermine the credibility of the process, we have the right to voice those concerns. And we did so without fear or favor. I'm sure going forward, we'll do so again if we find that there's anything untoward happening at the EC. And she herself surely would understand that political parties have the right to express their views on the process.
What happened to the petition against the now Chief Justice, Paul Bafuboni?
Well, I may have to check, first of all, if there's a petition. As far as I know, and I'm choosing my words carefully, right. I do not have any briefing that there's any petition against
all?
Him. Absolutely. Once I have that indication, I'm sure the people of Ghana will know. Yes.
But the minority caucus in Parliament had written to the government invoking the Right to Information Bill, seeking what processes had taken place since your government received a petition.
Well, again, I would have to see that RTI request. I have not cited it, so I'm not able to speak to it.
I see. Is that why the minority has not received any response at all?
But I'm saying that
because you haven't seen it.
I have not seen any RTI requests. Normally, if there are RTI requests, I would see them. Okay. There are a couple that I have seen that we've responded to. I have not seen this one. If I have any briefing at all on the subject, I'm sure the public will be kept apprised to the extent that the law allows it here.
Your office receives the petitions as well?
No, it will be addressed to a certain quarter, but I am likely to see it because I speak for government. So if a decision were to be taken on it, I would know for purposes of being able to engage the people of Ghana on it. Yes.
Do you worry about those who think that you may be covering up something?
There's
you may be preventing the process from going forward?
First of all, there's nothing to cover up at all. No, people can make all manner of allegations, but those who make allegations themselves must be held to strict proof. They must show the basis of this claim. So it's not every claim made by the opposition that needs to be upheld or even repeated. They have made many claims that have no merit. Some of them do not make any kind of sense. And so they have the right to say whatever they want. We also have the right to scrutinize what they say.
Are you telling me this because when you don't acknowledge a petition, it goes away?
No, it doesn't go away. The process are clear. I'm saying as I sit here.
If you tell us you don't have the petition, then there's no process to follow.
I have not seen any petition. If a petition comes, indeed, there were 10 petitions in respect of Jean Mensah, her 2 deputies, and the special prosecutor. One day you woke up and we told you that these petitions have been sent to the appropriate quarter, didn't we? So if a similar one comes in against the Chief Justice or any other official, it will be acted upon. As I sit here, I do not know of the receipt of any petition in the office of the president. That is the honest truth.
I see. This government and leadership in Parliament had been on different pages as far as the office of the Special Prosecutor is concerned. On hindsight, what would have changed about that communication between the executive and the legislature?
The legislature does not need to inform the executive about what they do. We operate a system of separation of powers. The majority leader and the majority chief whip are not government officials. They are not. you could argue that they work in close collaboration with government officials to advance government's business in parliament. But that's about where it stops. They are not government officials. They don't work under the direction of government or the president. Yes, we can argue that they may consult on some actions that need to be taken. But they were not in breach of any known law or convention whatsoever. They have a right to demand the removal of any official or the scrapping of any office that they deem redundant or ineffective. They have the right to do so. The president disagreed on that occasion. He stated it publicly and then requested them to take a second look at what they were doing. And they obliged him. That is all that has happened, really. So there's really no issue about operating on different wavelengths. Indeed, sometimes even internal disagreement is healthy. No organization should operate as a monolith. You know, yes, we may belong to one political party. We are bound by a single ideology, but that doesn't mean that we think alike on all issues. But
then it brought to question whether or not the executive was wielding an unusual control on the leadership of parliament.
Not at all. That's why it was a request. I issued a statement, right? So it was a request. I can request you to cease this interview. You will oblige me.
But you're the president. When you request me to cease the interview, I have nothing else to do but cease.
No, there was nothing the president could do to the majority leader or the chief whip if they fail to acquiesce.
Balance of power.
With balance of power.
The president is here, the leader is here.
True, but the president could not have taken any action against them. None whatsoever. You could argue that because we belong to the same party, it helps for consultation to happen and all that. But the point I'm making is that it was a request. The president, where he sits, may have more information than the majority leader and the chief whip. So if they are embarking on a course of action and he says that no, please pause, reconsider, let us do it this way, and you oblige me, there's nothing wrong with it.
Why did that have to be public? Why couldn't it be done behind closed doors?
Because the public needed to know the stance of government on this matter. And the president didn't think...
Why? Why did the public have to know?
Because for some time, there had been some public disquiet about the performance of the OSP or its functional necessity for that matter. People have said that the office should be scrubbed entirely. Others have said the OSP should be removed and all that. The president believes that it's too early in the day to making that claim, because this office has been there barely for 7 years. Forget about whatever flaws may have taken place when it was being set up and all that. But let us give it a chance to lend its weight to the fight against corruption. But the president does not think that the time is ripe yet for this kind of talk. And therefore, whatever legitimate reason others may have for wanting the office to be scrapped should not see the light of day now. And the president has said that publicly. He has gone a step further by engaging the majority leader and the chief whip to, step back from an action that they had initiated to scrap their office. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It actually shows that we are maturing as a democracy. That even internally, there can be disagreements about the way forward on certain matters. And it does not hurt government or the ruling party in any way. I think we should encourage more internal debates. If people feel strongly about their position, let them express same. And let it be subjected to analysis and criticism, so that the best way forward is achieved in that regard.
Has this government shelved progress on the anti-LGBTQ law?
The point is that it's a private member's bill that has gone to Parliament. For some reason, even though it was passed by Parliament, it was never signed. Some have accused the former president of stalling on it and all that. But currently, it is back in Parliament. It will be considered. And if there are areas that need to be fine-tuned or improved upon, why not? I'm sure it will be subject to debate, so all of us will have the opportunity to contribute to it, and it will become law eventually. Yes.
I mean, there are those who think that it doesn't have to go through the process again. Where does the executive sit on that?
Has to